Hey guys, it's Johnny. Those of you that watch the channel, you know we talk a lot about property and we talk about traveling on this channel a lot as well. And when we talk about property, we talk a lot about Spain because this is where I live. I know the property market quite well here. And of course, I bought my own apartment in Spain 2 years ago. So if you're looking for a second home somewhere in Europe, or if you're even looking for a profitable place to rent out property, then that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So let's get right into it. All right, so looking through each of the countries that I'm going to talk about in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about why people are interested in these countries, what might be something that attracts you to invest in there or buying a property there. We're going to talk about some of the key cities and areas for real estate investment in the country as well. We're going to look at some data as well on possible return on investment. And last but not least, we're also going to look at if there are any challenges in investing in property in any of these countries as well. And just before we start, purchasing a property, of course, is a major decision. It's a big investment, especially if it's overseas outside of your home country as well. And so while I hope the information in this video is useful to you and sets you in the right direction on your property search, do of course do your own research first and seek independent professional and legal advice before making a purchase. Now that's out of the way, let's start having a look at where you could buy property in Europe. So let's start with Spain, my current home where I live right now. Spain, obviously a very popular tourist destination. Tourism accounts for about 16% of Spain's GDP, and it is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the world, let alone Europe. People are of course drawn to Spain because of the Mediterranean climate that there is here, the fantastic food that you'll find all across different regions of Spain, and the really high quality of life, which is very affordable as well. If your property investing budget is 500,000 euros in Spain, then that would make you eligible for a golden visa, which would give you the right to residency in Spain, both to live and work when you purchase a property of that value. So the two top real estate cities in Spain are of course the capital city Madrid and Barcelona, which is the second biggest city in the country, and of course a major tourist city as well. And then you've got cities like Valencia and Malaga, which are on the coast, which have slightly more affordable property prices. And in the case of Malaga, you've got quite a big expat community around that province as well. And if you're looking to invest in Spanish property, data from various real estate portals such as Idealista and Fotocasa put the average return on investment at 6 to 7%. This of course depending on which region of the country you're in. So if you're investing in Madrid or Barcelona, then you'll expect a lower return on investment because of the higher property prices, the higher acquisition costs, and also the generally higher, property taxes as well. Then if you're investing in an area such as Huelva, Murcia or Almeria, which are, popular tourist destinations on the coast, but they're not the principal ones. So there's actually some higher profitability, some higher return on investment in those regions of Spain. And these two online real estate portfolios, Idealista and Fotocasa, are probably the two most popular in Spain as well when it comes to looking for a property, whether it's to purchase or for rent as well. These are a good first port of call to get an idea of property prices and to get an idea of what the market is looking like. Now, if you are interested in buying a property in Spain and you want to find out a little bit more about the costs of buying a property in Spain or what the process of buying in Spain looks like, I've done 2 videos on my channel where I've talked about this. So if you're interested in those videos, I will leave the links in the video description for you if you want to go and see that in a bit more detail. Challenges when it comes to investing in property in Spain. So the first challenge I would say is that if you're a non-resident in the country, that means your primary residence is outside of Spain, then it's going to be a lot harder for you to get a mortgage if that's the route that you want to go down to finance your property purchase. To give you an idea, if you're a resident in Spain and you're applying for a mortgage, then the most common outcome is that the bank will give you will finance you up to 80% of the property's purchase. So you're putting 20% down. There are cases where you can get higher levels of finance than that, but of course it's on a case-by-case basis. If you're not a resident in Spain, then expect a higher down payment, perhaps 30 up to 40% of the property's value. Of course, again, it can be on a case-by-case basis. It's all circumstantial, but this is kind of the general what you can expect. There's also been stories in the past of illegal properties being built, essentially where someone has built a property on land that is not theirs, that they don't have the deeds for, and then that person, by not knowing this, ends up losing their house, losing all their money that they've invested because the property is not a legal property. If you are looking at buying a property in Spain, then make sure you get a lawyer to walk you through that process, especially if you don't speak Spanish. There are English-speaking lawyers in Spain that can help you out, and make sure you get all of the necessary documentation about the property, such as its registry certificate and kind of the nota simple, as it's called in Spanish, which tells you kind of the key information about the property. And if you've been following the news in Spain as well, and also I talked about this on my channel, then you'll know about about Spain's new housing law, which has now been passed through the courts and has been decreed into the law. But essentially, if you're in a rent stress area where the cost of rent, mortgage plus bills exceeds 30% of income, or property prices have increased at a certain rate, then essentially there'll be some kind of rent control on rental contracts in the area. You also got to consider an increase in taxes on vacant property under this new law. So particularly if you're buying, a holiday home in Spain and you're not regularly visiting the country, then your annual property tax could essentially double as a result of that. Worth noting as well that this new housing law doesn't really affect Airbnb or short-term holiday rentals, but that is a whole nother ball game as well, where there's a lot of paperwork and licensing and regulations that need to be fulfilled involved if you want to get into that. So do keep those in mind if you are considering investing in Spain. Now let's go across the border to the other side of the peninsula and have a look at Spain's neighbor, Portugal. When you think of Portugal, people tend to think of the capital city, Lisbon. They think of Porto as well. And they also think of the Algarve region, such as Lagos, Albufeira, cities like this in the south that are very popular with tourists as well. Now, data sources on investment in Portuguese real estate suggest that you could be earning from 4% up to 8% return on your property. Of course, again, the bigger cities like Lisbon and Porto have smaller rental yields. However, something interesting that came up is that one-bedroom apartments and possibly even studio apartments can yield up to 8%. Very important if you're considering buying a property in Portugal is that you get a tax ID before you do this process. You'll have to do the same thing actually in Spain. You'll have to get what's known as a NIE, but in Portugal, with this tax ID, you'll need to get that before you start the buying process. Now, some challenges when it comes to investing in Portugal. So a lot of people in the past would have looked to invest perhaps through a golden visa in Portugal, where for as little as 300,000 euros, you could have bought a second-hand property and it would have granted you a residency permit to come and live in the country. However, with Portugal's popularity and attracting a lot of foreign investment and digital nomads and people from abroad who've come to work in the country, then the cost of living in Portugal has risen quite sharply. And particularly when it comes to housing, the costs of housing have increased greatly. And so as a result, the Portuguese government have scrapped this program. So you'll no longer be able to acquire a golden visa if you're investing in Portuguese property. And as I was saying as well, as a lot of people have now come to the country, probably the opportunity is gone in terms of finding a bargain for a property. You're probably going to pay quite a lot compared to what you would have paid 4 or 5 years ago for a property in Portugal. Okay, now let's go north a little bit and let's go to France. Now, France was at one point and may still be the most visited country in the world, with very, very high numbers of tourists arriving in the country. And France has a lot to offer to people visiting the country, fantastic food again, very intriguing culture. And France has a bit of everything to offer. You've got big cities where you've got the hustle and bustle like in Paris. You also got cities like Lyon, which are near the mountains, or cities like Bordeaux, which are near the countryside, and cities in the Côte d'Azur, which are of course on the coast, and you can enjoy, the sun and the beach. When it comes to return on investment in France, data suggests you're probably looking at about 4 to 5% return. Again, cities like Paris, that'll be a much lower rental yield, like 3 or 4%. But it's worth noting that the Parisian rental market is constantly moving, so you'll have a very high occupancy rate if you're investing in a property to rent out in Paris. You also got some very interesting outliers on the map, such as Saint-Etienne, where you can get up to 8 or 10% return, which is very interesting. And if you're interested in finding out more about the process of buying property in France, then I did an interview with my friend who bought a property in Paris last year, where he talks a little bit about the process of getting a loan and the process of buying a property in France as well, for those who are interested. Again, video link in the description. And what you'll see in that video is that there are a lot of challenges that come with buying a property in France. Let's start with everybody's favorite, French administration. Now, you might have heard about this online and wonder if it's true. I can tell you from 3 years of living in France and insufferable administrative procedures, it is a pain in the Just the speed of these processes in general are super slow. You'll find you're missing a document, or they'll ask you for a document that you didn't think you needed but actually need, even though it's not on the list, etc., etc. So in short, French administration is not for the faint-hearted. As you might imagine as well, property in France is quite a bit more expensive than some of the other countries that we'll talk about in this video. So there's obviously a greater capital requirement to invest in France as well. And at the same time, based on the ROI data that I've used for this video, it also suggests that you can find a better or similar return in some of the other countries for a lower initial investment as well. Similar to in Spain and probably everywhere we'll talk about in this video for that matter, again, more complicated complicated getting financing if you're not a resident in France. They'll ask you for a greater down payment. You'll probably go through more checks. And again, it will be a baptism of fire of French administration. In Paris as well, there are rent controls in place. So you really need to do your homework and make sure the numbers come out correct on the long-term basis as well if you're thinking of investing in Paris. And there's also a lot of property taxes involved with French property as well. All right, now let's go east and let's check out Cyprus. Now I visited Cyprus last year and I loved it. Great place to visit. Again, amazing food, fantastic weather all year round. You know, you got about 300 at least days of sunshine, very mild winters. Lovely people in Cyprus as well. And Cyprus is also growing, definitely from a real estate perspective as well. There is a lot of new property construction going on in the country. I talked about this again in the video that I did on Cyprus last year as well. And Cyprus also has a golden visa program where you can buy property in Cyprus and it will get you a residency permit as well. So where could you buy property in Cyprus? You could buy property in Nicosia, the capital. You could buy it on the coast in Paphos, Limassol or Larnaca as well. And data suggests that you can expect about a 3 to 5% return on your investment in Cypriot property if you rent it out. Now, there are a few challenges that come with buying property in Cyprus. So first of all, if you're an EU or EEA citizen, a lot of these challenges won't apply to you. Who it more applies to are the non-EU citizens, and yes, that includes British citizens as well. So as a non-EU citizen, you can buy property in Cyprus, but you're restricted to how much you can buy. You can essentially buy one residential property and then either, you know, a garage or an office space to go along with it as well. As a non-resident as well, you won't be able to rent out your property on a short-term basis. So through Airbnb or as a short-term holiday rental, for example, you'll only be able to rent it out to residents in Cyprus. And you've also got to keep in mind the complicated decision on the island of Cyprus following the events of 1974 and how that could impact property. Remember, a lot of people were displaced by what happened. There is disputed land, more so north of the Green Line, but you definitely want to get a lawyer to walk you through this process to make sure that you definitely are buying the rights to the property and it's not under dispute. Now, before I move on to the last two countries that I want to talk about in this video, I imagine a lot of you are thinking of investing in a property in a country where the currency is different from your own. You might be looking for a workaround for significant bank commissions or having to open a local bank account in the country where you're looking at investing. And that's where services like Wise come in handy, where you can hold multiple currencies in an app on your phone. And you can also get local bank details to make international transfers from your phone or from your computer wherever you are in the world without having to move to a country and open a local bank account. I've been using Wise for many years now and I've been very happy with the service. It's been a great travel companion and both when I've needed to move money back and forth between the UK and where I was living in Europe at the time. So if you're interested in signing up to Wise and you think it might be useful when you're looking at purchasing a property abroad, I'll leave my referral link in the video description for you. And finally, I'm going to talk about Greece and Italy. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on these two countries because honestly, I don't have the same level of information and I don't have the same level of understanding of these two countries as I do some of the others that we've talked about in this video. Now, both these countries have a golden visa program, but only Greece will allow you to use it to invest in property. So depending on where you're investing in Greece, it will be minimum of 250,000 euros or in certain municipalities of Athens, Thessaloniki, Mykonos, and Santorini, then it could be from 500,000 euros upwards. So keep that in mind when you're picking an area when you want to invest in Greece. And then when it comes to Italy, as I say, there is a golden visa program, but not through property investing. Nevertheless, you know, popular places in Italy might be Rome, might be Milan, might be Sardinia, you know, the coast of Italy, very, very beautiful country as well. And again, I mean, both these countries, brilliant food, brilliant weather, you know, what else is there to say? And it seems that both Greece and Italy are trying to attract foreign investment at the moment, as they have got some tax incentive schemes that are available where it's kind of generally a lump sum tax amount every year. So guys, there's a whistle-stop tour of property in Southern Europe and France because it's somewhere between South and Northern Europe, so I can't say Southern Europe for France. Anyways, I hope you found the information in this video helpful and useful. Leave a comment and let me know, are you thinking of buying property in any of these countries? Are you thinking of moving there? Till next time, I'll see you on the next one, and let's get this money.